Just a quick check. Hello everyone, am I audible? Can you tell me in the chat box if I'm audible? Great, chalo, बढ़िया. Cool. So how is everyone doing? कैसे हो सब लोग? सब बढ़िया? Everyone? Okay, great. Cool then, let's begin. So everyone is here for roadmap to data structures and algorithms. तो आई होप जितने भी लोग हैं एवरीवन नोज द इंपॉर्टेंस राइट सबको पता होना चाहिए कि डेटा स्ट्रक्चर एल्गोरिथम होता क्या है सो फर्स्ट थिंग इज वाई डीएसए ठीक है फर्स्ट थिंग इज वाई डीएसए एंड व्हाट इज डीएसए तो ये दोनों चीजें हम समझेंगे एंड इन दिस होल सेशन एक एनालॉजी यूज करेंगे कि एक गेम को कैसे सीखते हैं राइट फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ एनी वन वॉन्ट्स टू लर्न अ गेम फॉर एग्जाम्पल लेट्स टेक एग्जाम्पल ऑफ क्रिकेट राइट इंडिया में सबको क्रिकेट पसंद है तो अगर आपको क्रिकेट सीखना है सो व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप किसी भी गेम के बारे में फर्स्ट स्टेप इज यू लर्न द रूल्स करेक्ट मैंने आपको बोला आप क्रिकेट सीखो तो फर्स्ट स्टेप विल बी यू लर्न द रूल्स और वो रूल्स अगर हम एनालॉजी यहाँ पे निकालें डीएसए में तो दैट रूल विल बी what that rule is going to be the roadmap right so first step is to learn the rules then second step if you're learning cricket is going to be what second step is going to be that if you're learning cricket and you're trying to become a batsman so second step is going to be you analyze all the shots that exist in cricket for example cover drive straight drive hook shot right pull shot whatever shots you have you try to analyze that and practice that right so that will be our journey throughout DSA that whatever we know as a roadmap हम उसको we will try to practice that try to learn that one by one step at a time correct एक shot सीखा for example if you learn cover drive today तो उसके लिए you will practice cover drive the whole day right so that you master that stroke same thing will happen here अगर आपने एक data structure सीखा you have to first master that data structure before moving to the next one right any doubt till this point अभी तक everything is going well right cool okay so after we have learned every data structure yeah after we have learned how to play each and every shot if we are taking analogy of cricket so what do you do match practice correct before you actually start playing what do you do match practice तो मैच प्रैक्टिस क्या होगा हमारे लिए फॉर एंड आर फाइनल मैच इज गोइंग टू बी एन इंटरव्यू right because where will you use DSA so DSA is going to be used in interviews so our final jo match practice hai before final match right which is before an interview we are going to do match practice which is practice questions on lead code या फिर interview bit so practice the questions which are most likely being asked in today's world for example agar if I consider uh, good companies let's say FANG companies तो उसमें what do they focus on so they focus mostly on DSA and computer science fundamentals but to crack FANG most of the time at least in India there is no interview without DSA so DSA is that I would say tool or that all the shots you need to perform good in an interview so DSA is that tool which will help you throughout the interview right so these questions why DSA and what is DSA I hope these are clear your main aim to learn DSA should be to get better at problem solving because DSA से होता क्या DSA से you basically solve real life problems using computer algorithms right so that is why we want to learn DSA and why will this will help us in preparation for interviews cool so okay now moving on to who am I right who am I to guide you so I am a computer science engineering student and I am currently in my last semester in BITS Pilani and I have cracked or I would say I have gotten an opportunity to work in companies like Microsoft and Amazon and also I am incoming SDE at Google so I can guide you or I can give you a roadmap through which you can also prepare for interviews, and then you can basically try to crack that, right? There is no so there is one question in the chat box which I can see: is math necessary for DSA? See, it is. Math is something which is very basic, right? For example, all the DSA concepts, or internally, or I would say at the base level, use math. It is all about mathematics. But do you require very high level of mathematics like differential calculus, integral calculus? No. Very basic mathematics, yes, that is required. So I hope this I answered your question, Naresh. Cool. Okay. So yeah, I was saying that okay, I can guide you, and I can, because I know that jab bhi people try to prepare for DSA, there are a lot of questions. What should we do? Right? What should we do? Kahan se kare? And what all to learn throughout the journey? So this can be very overwhelming, because when you go and search on the internet, you will find a lot of things. बहुत सारी चीजें मिलेंगी, बहुत सारे टॉपिक मिलेंगे, एंड यू वोंट बी एबल टू एक बार ऐसे लगेगा यार डर लग रहा है, राइट? बिकॉज इतने सारे टॉपिक हैं, हम कैसे पढ़ेंगे? हाउ विल वी गो थ्रू ईच एंड एवरी टॉपिक? सो दीज आर वेरी बेसिक क्वेश्चंस, एंड दीज आर क्वेश्चंस एवरी बिगिनर गेट. तो उसको हाउ डू यू बेसिकली ओवरकम दैट फियर ऑफ कि बहुत सारा क्वेश्चन है, बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स हैं, तो कैसे करेंगे? दैट आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू गिव यू अ ब्रीफ इंट्रोडक्शन कि यार ये टॉपिक्स हैं, फॉलो दिस प्लान. ठीक है, दिस इज नॉट हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल, बट इफ यू फॉलो दिस प्लान one by one, right, one step at a time, then what will happen is basically you will face lot less issues. अगर आप खुद से विदाउट गाइडेंस करोगे, तो बहुत सारे आपको बीच में हो सकता है आप कहीं पे फंस गए, राइट? बिकॉज देयर वाज सम प्री रिक्विजिट फॉर अ टॉपिक. तो इफ यू फॉलो दिस प्लान विच आई एम गोइंग टू शेयर, उससे इट इज मोस्ट लाइकली दैट आपकी प्रिपरेशन लेवल अच्छी होगी, एंड यू विल एंड अप learning DSA in a very good and smooth fashion, right? Okay. So the first step to any beginner is you have to choose a programming language. This is a very this is most asked question ki which programming language should we begin with. So there are a lot of programming languages like Python, Java, C++. So you can choose any of it. जो भी आपको करना है, just focus on one thing, that whatever language you choose is going to be your uh, you are going to use that throughout the preparation. Don't switch languages between the preparation. So for example, if I choose C++ today, so I have to keep in mind that I will learn the whole DSA concepts in C++. राइट? ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा कि यार मैंने सी प्लस प्लस में कुछ बेसिक टॉपिक सीखे एंड देन आई विल स्विच टू जावा. दैट इज नॉट एट ऑल रिकमेंडेड. सो इंटरव्यूज में व्हाट इज रिक्वायर्ड इज दैट यू नो एटलीस्ट वन प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज वेरी गुड, राइट? यू शुड बी एबल टू राइट any question, or you should be able to solve any question in that language for DSA. So ये required होता है. So what you want to do is you choose a programming language first. Either choose Java, C++ or Python. These are the most widely used ones, right? Then after choosing programming language, what should we do? So step 2 is going to be the fundamentals of DSA. So okay, one more question here which is asked is कि, okay, you choose a programming language, so how much time should we devote in learning that? So to learn programming language, you should devote around 10 to 15 days, या maximum 15 to 20 days. उसमें basic topics we have to learn. What are those topics? You should know how to implement, how to use for loops, right? Then the other question, other topic can be you should know conditional statements, how to use if else, and you should know the data types in term, if you know we have C++ and Java, then there are data types, so you should know how to declare variables, right? These are the fundamentals of programming language, and in this you should not devote a lot of time. Just 10 to 15 days or max 20 days you should spend. Okay, I see a lot of questions in the chat box. So one of the questions is, can interviewer be strict to any one programming language? Generally no. So if I would answer generally, they will ask you to write in whatever language you are comfortable in. So they won't ask you to write strictly in Java or C++. But yes, 1 or 2% of the times this might happen. Okay, cool. So let's move to the next step. Once you have basic understanding of a programming language, right? For example, C++ ho gaya, Java ho gaya, Python, whatever you are comfortable in, then the next step is to start with the fundamentals of DSA. And when we say fundamentals of DSA, So the most basic data structure which is widely used everywhere is going to be array. कोई भी लैंग्वेज सीखो, कहीं से भी डीएसए सीखो, राइट, वट एवर कोर्स यू आर फॉलोइंग, द फर्स्ट data structure anyone will basically ask you to learn is going to be an array. So array mein there are some basic questions, there are and a few algorithms which you should know. So I have listed down here. There is something called Cadence algorithm, right, which is very famous algorithm in arrays. This is something called Dutch national flag. And in arrays, once you are done with the basic, right, 1D array, which is called a linear or one dimensional array, उसके बाद जो topic आता है, that is called multi-dimensional arrays or 2D arrays, right? So these are very famous topics which you should learn when you are learning arrays. अब इसके बाद आफ्टर arrays comes string, राइट, arrays के बाद बेसिक एक जो डेटा स्ट्रक्चर इसे बोल सकते हैं, दैट इज गोइंग टू बी स्ट्रिंग्स. सो स्ट्रिंग में क्या होगा? स्ट्रिंग में वी हैव स्ट्रिंग मैनिपुलेशन, like how do you concatenate strings, how do you find substring of a string, right? And string comparison is very important. String comparison is basically lexicographical comparison, like how do you compare strings. Isme most important topic is going to be lexicographical comparison. So you should, whenever you are learning strings, these are the bare minimum things you need to do, कि एटलीस्ट इतना रिक्वायर्ड है फॉर यू टू प्रोसीड फर्दर, राइट. दीज आर टॉपिक बाय टॉपिक. एरेज हो गया, स्ट्रिंग्स हो गया, देन वी मूव ऑन टू रिकर्शन एंड बैक ट्रैकिंग. नाउ रिकर्शन, a lot of times, a lot of people also say this, कि recursion and backtracking is the actual point or actual you can say point in the preparation level when the actual DSA starts. मतलब कि यहीं से असली DSA शुरू होता है. Recursion backtracking is considered to be the backbone of DSA, you can say, because recursion backtracking is a topic which can be very confusing in the beginning, right? और उसके लिए बहुत ज्यादा important है that you build the intuition. What, like, why do you use recursion and how do you use recursion? So this is what we have to follow up tak. Okay, I see some questions in the chat box. Okay, yeah, I'll try to share the link for this Google Slides. I'll share the link in the chat box. Sir, I don't know any programming language. So you have to learn at least one programming language to learn DSA. Because if you are trying to switch into software engineering, तो at least यार एक programming language should be known. In our course, maybe JavaScript based all study. JavaScript, yes, you can use JavaScript, but I would prefer, or if you are starting, then I would recommend you to go through C++ or Java first. Cool, then let's move on. So recursion and backtracking, once you are done with this, right, once you have practiced questions based on recursion and backtracking and आपकी intuition बन गई, right, you have some intuition that how can you solve these questions, then you should move on to a very important topic which is called sorting. Sorting में there are a lot of algorithms. Bubble sort हो गया, selection sort, insertion sort, merge sort, quick sort, randomized quick sort. So these are the topics, or these are the sorting algorithms you should know if you are considering to sit, if your aim is to sit in an interview, right? Because this is expected, at least this much is expected from you, that you know these sorting algorithms. Cool. So after sorting comes searching. तो अब सर्चिंग में क्या होता है? सर्चिंग में वी हैव लीनियर सर्च एंड बाइनरी सर्च, विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड देन अगेन इन फंडामेंटल्स वी कैन कंसिडर ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड प्रोग्रामिंग बेसिक्स. पूरी, सो अगेन ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड प्रोग्रामिंग बेसिक्स में you don't have to dive very deep, because there are a lot of things which you can learn about object oriented programming, but you have to learn at least what is a class and an object and the 4 pillars of object oriented programming. This is the bare minimum which you should know in the fundamentals. So again, a very like mostly what you will ask now is कि fundamental में कितना time दे? How much time do you suggest for learning fundamentals? So see, in step 1 we learned a programming language. For programming language I suggested 15 to 20 days. अब fundamentals में क्या है? You should spend at least one month, right? तो अब 1 month में क्या होगा? You should say, okay, 1 month में you should learn all these topics one by one and try to solve the basic questions. Basic question कहाँ से होंगे, sir? Right? There are a lot of platforms like A very famous platform is Geeks for Geeks, right? If you're beginning, if you're a complete beginner, I would suggest go to Geeks for Geeks and you can Google about basic array questions, right? So basic array questions की एक list आ जाएगी. Try to solve 10 to 15 questions based on arrays. Similarly, what you can do is try to Google string basic questions on strings. तो उसके basic जो questions होंगे 10 to 15 questions you should be able to solve, right? Similarly for sorting and searching and recursion, everything ऐसे ही करना. So for fundamentals, you should not take, I would say, more than a month. It should not take more than a month. You should be able to learn these in a month, right? Okay. There is one question, sir. Is DSA solely sufficient for getting placed in FANG companies? No, actually, I would say this depends from company to company. तो DSA में it is possible that sorry for at least in FANG it is possible कि यार सिर्फ DSA से काम चल जाए, but it is not suggested that you only prepare DSA. You should know computer science fundamentals as well, because there is a possibility that interviewer might ask you this. Okay, there's one more question. Yeah, this is a very, again, a lot of people ask this question, that how many days are required to complete the DSA course? So see, DSA course ka completion uh, depends on your speed, how much like how much do you already know, and are you a complete beginner or not. But if you're a complete beginner and you have to master DSA, then I would suggest keep at least 6 months in your hand, because 6 months may you will get a decent knowledge and you will have enough time to practice the questions. So if you're a complete beginner, then 6 months is a good time to have. So there's one more question. Which subject apart from DSA do you need to learn? So apart from DSA, you should know computer science fundamentals like, again, object-oriented programming. You have your operating systems, DBMS, and maybe computer networks. So again, these are very company specific topics. But what you should do is before preparing, or let's say if you're targeting FANG companies, let's say you're targeting Microsoft in general, right? So it would be a good practice that you Google what are the topics mostly as in Microsoft. So you will get a lot of interview experiences jahan se you can relate the topics, that what should you prepare. Yeah, again, so I answered this question. Computer science subjects can be object oriented programming, DBMS, which is database management systems. Then we have computer networks and operating systems. Okay, so let's move to, okay, so see, fundamentals are done, right? So step one was to learn a programming language. Step two is to learn fundamentals of the DSA, right? Now step three is going to be intermediate DSA. इसमें what data structure should you focus on? So intermediate level pe, just go follow this order. First of all, you should learn linked list, right? Linked list is a very, again, if at a time ऐसा था कि Microsoft used to ask a lot of questions only from linked list. So linked list is one of the hot topics. So linked list learn karo. Then after you are done with linked list, you can go with stacks, then followed by queues. And this is DEX. So this is called doubly ended queues. This is again a hot topic nowadays, right? 5-6 years ago, this data structure was kind of new, but nowadays इस पे बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन पूछे जा रहे हैं, right? DEX के ऊपर. This is a hot topic nowadays, so you should learn doubly ended queues. And then you should focus on hashing. Hashing again, if I ask you कि पूरे DSA में सबसे ज़्यादा what will you use? I would say hashing is one of the topics, or hash maps in if you're in saying in Java. So hash maps or hashing is a topic which is widely used throughout DSA, right? Then you should learn two-pointer approach, sliding window. You have greedy approach. So all of these are techniques, right? These are algorithmic techniques which you should learn. These are not data structures. right? Two pointer approach, sliding window, and greedy. These are not data structures, but these are the algorithms you should learn. कि इसमें these are problem solving techniques you should know to solve a problem in optimal time complexity. I think I missed one point here, that what you should do is in fundamentals, right? Intermediate se pehle, there is one topic which is called time and space complexity analysis. So you should know how to find time complexity, what is time complexity, how to find time complexity, and then similarly for space complexity. This is very important because interview mein whenever you sit, to time complexity something ye to aani chahiye. You should know for an algorithm or for a code which you have written, उसकी टाइम एंड स्पेस कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी क्या है. कूल. सो यहाँ पे इन फंडामेंटल्स वी शुड हैव टाइम एंड स्पेस कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी एज वेल. So now in intermediate, last topic which we should learn, or I would suggest that intermediate level pe you should learn, is bit manipulation. So these are the list of topics which are basically in intermediate level, right? Or now before this, right? Step 4 is going to be revision and practice. What does revision and practice means? Before moving to next step, which is the final step, इससे पहले हमें we have to make sure that we are completely confident with step 2 and 3, basically intermediate level and the fundamentals of DSA. Step 4 और step 5 पे जाने से पहले, before learning the advanced part, you have to make sure कि यार basic fundamentals and intermediate are very clear. Because if you're targeting companies which are, let's say, in the range of 10 to 12 LPA, right? You're not targeting very high paying companies or FANG companies, so they will ask you questions from fundamentals and intermediate. And any company which you join will ask you topics till this point, right? Advanced topic ऐसे हैं जो कुछ कुछ company ही पूछेंगी, right? They will only ask, there'll be only a few companies which will ask you questions from advanced part. So intermediate step तक you have to make sure that you know this. आपको जितना आपने पढ़ा है उसको अब तक रिवाइज करो, and उस पे you should practice questions. This is your step 4. So revision and practice is your step 4. Up one mistake, or I would say one advice to everyone would be, because see, all of this, if you are a complete beginner, just I remember when I started coding, all of this I used to forget. Like for example, let's say I studied linked list. मैंने linked list कुछ पढ़ लिया. I studied the basic algorithms कि linked list में कैसे implement करते हैं, उसके questions कैसे solve करते हैं. मैंने ये पढ़ लिया, right? But what used to happen was, let's say मैंने linked list पढ़ा, then मैंने hashing पढ़ा. तो अब जब मैंने hashing पढ़ लिया, when I've studied hashing, I used to forget कि okay, linked list में मैंने क्या क्या पढ़ा था मुझे याद ही नहीं है, right? So if I ask you, let's say today you study a concept and 15 days later I ask you how did you solve this, so you should be able to tell कि यार हमने कैसे solve किया था. अब बहुत सारे, so basically I teach in Axio job, right? I teach DSA to a lot of people. तो अब क्या होता है उसमें, when I'm teaching, right, उस time everyone remembers कि how can you solve this question, because this is what we have been studying, right? For example, अगर आप linked list पढ़ रहे हो तो आप linked list के question उस time तो solve कर सकते हो, but अगर 10 दिन बाद if I ask you to solve a new question, then a lot of people will not be able to do that. उसका reason क्या है? Because they don't revise. आपने कुछ नया सीखा तो यार, हम स्कूल में क्या करते थे, हमको कुछ भी नया सीखना होता था तो वी यूज टू राइट दैट, वी यूज टू मेक नोट्स ऑफ दैट. सेम थिंग यू शुड फॉलो हियर. वट एवर यू आर लर्निंग, राइट, वट एवर न्यू यू आर लर्निंग, उसके नोट्स जरूर बनाओ. दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट स्टेप. because I still remember, because when I was learning data structures and algorithms, in the beginning I filled around 4 notebooks. I still have that. तो अगर मुझे इंटरव्यू के लिए आजकल इफ आई हैव टू प्रिपेयर फॉर एन इंटरव्यू, व्हाट आई डू इज आई जस्ट गो थ्रू दैट नोटबुक्स कि यार हाँ ये एल्गोरिथम्स थी एंड हाउ डू यू इम्प्लीमेंट दिस. तो वट एवर न्यू यू आर लर्निंग, अगर आपको कुछ भी लग रहा है कि एक एल्गोरिथम, एक नई एल्गोरिथम सीखी आज, तो उसको नोटबुक में लिख लो so that you can revise that after 15 days. So very important step is step 4, that you should revise constantly. Do one thing, if you are preparing, right, if you are preparing for interviews or if you are learning DSA, and let's say you study 7 days a week, right, आप हर दिन पढ़ रहे हो, तो 6 days learn new concepts and संडे को व्हाट यू शुड डू इज, जो भी पढ़ा पूरे वीक में उसका नोट्स का रिवीजन करो, राइट? स्पेंड 2 to 3 hours रिवाइजिंग वट एवर यू लर्न एंड मेक दिस अ हैबिट, बिकॉज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इन डीएसए विल बी रिटेंशन, कि आपने जो भी पढ़ा आप भूल रहे हो या आपको वो बाद में याद रह रहा है. देयर इज नो पॉइंट इन लर्निंग एवरीथिंग एंड देन फॉरगेटिंग एवरीथिंग. Okay, cool. I see there are a lot of questions. Um, how to make notes? So, see, how to make notes is very simple. Um, for example, let's say you studied some concept जिसमें there was a new algorithm used, right? आपने आज से पहले ये वाला क्वेश्चन कभी ऐसा सेम टाइप का क्वेश्चन सॉल्व नहीं किया, तो उसको राइट डाउन बेसिक हिंट्स, राइट? राइट डाउन द प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट कि व्हाट वाज द प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट. अच्छा, इस प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट के लिए हिंट्स लिख लो कि यार कैसे सॉल्व किया, व्हाट वर द हिंट्स, व्हाट वाज द एल्गोरिथम यूज्ड, ये लिख लो. एंड देन व्हेनेवर यू आर रिवाइजिंग ऑन संडेज यू विल बी एबल टू रिमेंबर दैट. सो बेसिकली होगा क्या, जो भी पढ़ा वो आपको बाद में याद रहेगा कि कैसे सॉल्व किया था ये प्रॉब्लम. ओके, सो वन क्वेश्चन विच आई एम सीइंग हियर इज, आई विल आंसर दैट. वन क्वेश्चन इज कि पेड कोर्सेज करने हैं क्या फ्री कोर्सेज करने हैं, डू वी हैव टू स्टडी फ्रॉम यूट्यूब or do we have to go through PDF, right? So this question I will answer at the end, because there are a lot of, it depends on you, right? मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि I will say कि YouTube से पढ़ो तो आपको सबको YouTube से पढ़ना है. Depends on how do you want to learn. It depends on the amount of time you want to spend or amount of effort you want to put in. So this question, like कि कौन सा कोर्स करना है, किस चीज को फॉलो करना है, I will answer at the end. Okay, cool. Okay, so step 4 was revision and practice. तो अगेन कमिंग टू दिस, जितना भी अब तक पढ़ा है, राइट, फंडामेंटल्स एंड इंटरमीडिएट, रिवाइज दैट एंड प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चंस बेस्ड ऑन दैट, बिकॉज एडवांस पार्ट विल इन्वॉल्व ऑल ऑफ दीज कॉन्सेप्ट्स विल बी यूज्ड. जितने भी कॉन्सेप्ट हमने फंडामेंटल्स में पढ़े और इंटरमीडिएट में पढ़े, सारे के सारे विल बी यूज्ड इन एडवांस पार्ट. सो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू हैव कॉन्फिडेंस इन, राइट? देन नेक्स्ट स्टेप और एडवांस पार्ट. अब ये एडवांस पार्ट, every company will not focus on these concepts, right? It is not always expected that you should know the advanced DSA. For a lot of companies, um, these concepts you can skip. For example, if you're targeting companies which only, let's say, in the range of 8 to 12 LPA or 10 to 12 LPA, there's a high probability that they won't ask very advanced questions, right? Only, I would say, FANG companies and um, companies which pay very high will ask these questions. So you should do your own research. For example, if you're targeting um, companies like, let's say, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, तो मेन फोकस, राइट, इंटरमीडिएट के बाद अब आपको एडवांस पार्ट को बहुत अच्छे से करना है, बिकॉज दीज कंपनीज विल आस्क अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम दीज कॉन्सेप्ट्स, राइट? तो यू हैव टू डू योर रिसर्च कि व्हाट कंपनीज आर यू टारगेटिंग, राइट, व्हाट इज योर एंड गोल. उसके बाद यू हैव टू डिसाइड वेदर टू लर्न एडवांस पार्ट और नॉट. Cool. Okay. So one question is intermediate को कितना time दे? Cool. Okay. So intermediate को depending on, okay. So intermediate you should spend around 1.5 to 2 months intermediate level पे, right? So you should spend a week in each and every topic. You can say linked list के लिए maximum of 1 week. Stacks and queues again a maximum of 1 more week. Then doubly ended queues me I think will be covered. So 2 weeks mein you should be able to cover concepts like linked list, stacks, queues and doubly ended queues. 2.5 weeks max, right? Then hashing mein you should be able to again cover this in 1 week, and learning these algorithms, right? Learning these approaches, two pointer, sliding window, greedy. To basically learn these algorithms you have to solve a lot of questions, राइट? टू पॉइंटर पे आपको ऐसा नहीं है कि मैंने आपको पढ़ा दिया कि यार ये टू पॉइंटर अप्रोच होती है. यू शुड बी, ऐसा नहीं होगा कि अब द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आई आस्क यू आपको पहले से आता होगा कि यहाँ पे टू पॉइंटर लग जाएगा. सो यू हैव टू प्रैक्टिस अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस फॉर मास्टरिंग टू पॉइंटर, स्लाइडिंग विंडो, ग्रीडी अप्रोच. ये सब के लिए यू हैव टू प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चंस. So again, 2 weeks for those questions. So 2 and 1 and 2. So again, wait, 1.5 months or maximum of 2 months. ये सारा intermediate should be able to, you should be able to follow. Uh, okay, so we have on what topics do product-based companies focus on? Okay, so product-based companies will mostly ask DSA. At least in India, I don't think बहुत कम companies हैं. I would say out of 100, I would say 98 or 99 companies will definitely ask you DSA. So DSA में, if you're focusing on product-based companies, so they will mostly focus on advanced DSA also. Okay, so let's move on to the advanced part. Now, advanced part में क्या है? Which, like, I would say, अगर आपने, if you're reading or if you have been following the IT industry or IT interviews, right, software development के interviews, so these topics like graphs, trees, dynamic programmings, you must have seen a lot, right? You must have read articles जहाँ पे लिखा है कि यार questions कहाँ से पूछे थे? Questions were asked from graph, trees and DP. A lot of times, product-based companies or FANG companies will only ask you questions from advanced part because they assume that you know the basics. And one more thing is कि advanced आने के लिए basic तो आना ही चाहिए, right? So a lot of times ये हो सकता है कि if you only know till intermediate point or intermediate level and you are going for a product-based company, then they might ask you from graphs and not focus on intermediate part because they assume that intermediate आता है तो इसलिए आपने advanced कर रखा है. So they will ask you questions from binary trees, binary search trees, right? Priority queues and heaps. Graphs is one of the topic. Graphs is one of the topics I would say जो जिसमें you should spend at least 20 to 25 days, right? Graphs in depth पढ़ोगे, you if you learn the algorithms कि algorithms काम कैसे करते हैं और उसमें intuition बनने के लिए you should definitely spend at least 20 to 25 days. And dynamic programming is something जहाँ पे तो यार even 1 month is not sufficient because dynamic programming is so vast, उसके use cases are so vast and उसकी intuition बनने के लिए it will take a lot of time. So advanced part में if I am suggesting, I would say at least keep 2.5 months to 3 months in hand, right? So binary trees, binary search trees, इसको you can learn in 10 days, 10 to 15 days at max. I would say 10 days is a good amount of time. Then priority queues in 1 week. So okay, let's say binary trees, binary search tree and priority queue in 3 weeks total, right? Graphs के लिए you should spend at least 3 to 4 weeks. And dynamic programming is same. कि again, a month is required to master dynamic programming. Then comes tries. So tries is something which is very like, these topics are only tries and string algorithms, right? Pattern matching के लिए जो KMP algorithm होता है, tries and string matching algorithms, इसमें you should only move to these topics once you are done with the trees, graphs and dynamic programming, right? So these are very important. उसके बाद if you have time, then focus on tries and string algorithms. So overall, I would say advanced part में 3 months is what is required. Okay, one question is how much time for recursion? So recursion के लिए, see recursion, to understand basics of recursion and to build intuition, I would say a week, right? If you practice, let's say 2 or 3 hours every day, so a week will be sufficient. And what will happen is a recursion will be used throughout, like throughout your DSA journey, recursion will be used. तो धीरे धीरे that will get consolidated. जो भी आपके let's say डाउट्स होंगे वो कि रिकर्शन कैसे यूज करते हैं, तो दैट विल बी, लेट्स से इट गेट क्लियर्ड विद इन थ्रू आउट द जर्नी. डीएसए की जो भी जर्नी है उसमें रिकर्शन बहुत बार यूज होगा, तो उसका अपने आप आपको मास्टरी हो जाएगी रिकर्शन की. बट व्हेन यू आर लर्निंग फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग, बिगिनर लेवल के लिए 1 week इज सफिशिएंट. ओके, so tries is a tries is actually a data structure. Okay, cool. So which type of jobs will be eligible after learning data structures? So after you learn DSA, I would say in India at least, आप किसी भी कंपनी में बैठोगे तो डीएसए पूछेंगे, दे विल डेफिनेटली आस्क क्वेश्चंस बेस्ड ऑन डीएसए. सो आई वुड से कि दैट इज अ प्री रिक्विजिट फॉर सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट इन इंडिया एट लीस्ट. Yes, so I'm coming to that ki how can you learn these concepts. I have one question which is, so okay, one question which is asked is which book to follow. So see, this is not I can't suggest any book as of now, because if you try to learn only from a book, so I think it will be a difficult to do, like difficult to follow, right? So books में बहुत theoretical होगा. Books will definitely have theory, but to practice questions, you should be able to follow only through like you should search on Google and वहां से question solve कर लो. So platforms like Geeks for Geeks, Lead Code, Interview Bit, these are your resources or go to places. Is DSA must for experienced guys? So in this question, Ajit, I'm not sure किस चीज का experience है. If you are saying software engineering की आपको if you have experience in that, तो I think आपने DSA already पढ़ रखा होगा. Okay, one question is web development required to get a job? See, this depends, right? Agar company, if company is asking you as a prerequisite that you should know web development, then yes, that is a prerequisite. But in general, no. So do our branch matter in Fang? To see, branch is something that actually will be written. Ki what you should do is go to the portal, right? Go to company's portal and check. Is what are the branches that are eligible for the job. Is DSA important for full stack development? Very basic DSA is required. Like you should know arrays, you should know maybe strings. So the fundamentals of DSA are required. But if you are just trying to build a very basic application, then you can skip the intermediate part. But again, if you're targeting for a job, then they will definitely ask you DSA. Okay, one question is how much DSA level you should know to get placed as a front-end developer. So front-end developer के लिए till the point of intermediate DSA, that is a must. You can skip advanced part if you don't have time, right? But intermediate tak you should know. Right, okay. So now see, I have told you how to, like what is the roadmap, right? For example, now you know कि roadmap क्या है, what all should you learn. Now the question is कहाँ से पढ़े, right? Where to learn from. So okay, so what you can do is, see, if you are someone who loves to read, like for example, if you can understand articles, right? So you should prefer platforms like Geeks for Geeks and Tutorial Points. So abhi, if you are someone jisko, if you can read articles and understand from that, that is very good. Then prefer Geeks for Geeks and Tutorial Point. But if you are someone, like for example, for me, I think I can learn faster when I learn from some video content, right? For example, अगर किसी ने पढ़ा दिया मुझे, then I will learn at a faster pace. Then I would say, there are two resources: either you follow a paid course or you follow something free, right? A free resource से पढ़ लो. So free resources are YouTube. So YouTube पे what you can do is search for a topic. For example, let's say if you want to learn about arrays, right? So you can search on YouTube arrays in DSA, and जो भी ऊपर की videos आएंगी, right? From the search result, you can try to go through them. And now, so these are free resources. Free resources में very big resources, your YouTube channel, right? YouTube का content, whatever you want to learn, right? Let's say for example, if you want to learn about binary trees, so YouTube पे search करो, watch the video, and then you can solve questions on Lead Code or Interview Bit. Okay, so these are your free resources, but there are a lot of paid resources as well. So people, there are startups and everything which are providing you these paid courses. So paid courses का फायदा, what is the benefit of paid courses is that it will provide you a roadmap. Again, a roadmap बोल दो या structured content, right, covering everything. So basically, if you are following some paid content, then they will provide you everything from beginner level to advanced level, and in a step-by-step fashion. So if you are someone who prefers that, right, if you are someone who wants to learn only through structured content, then you should definitely, I would say, opt for some paid course. And paid course nowadays you can get for let's say $1,000 or $2,000 at max. So I don't think they are very expensive. So definitely you can check them out. But if you are someone who is like, okay, I have a lot of time, I don't want structured content, मैं अपने आप सीख लूंगा, right? For example, अब होगा क्या कि if you have, let's say, 6 months only in your hand, then you should follow some structured course. Whereas if you are someone who has time, right, for example, you have two years to learn DSA, then you can follow YouTube as well. Okay, so paid course for DSA. See, there is a teacher or um, there are courses by Pratik Narang Bhaiya. So he's a very famous teacher, right? For example, अगर आपने उनके बहुत सारे courses या if you look around yourself, तो आपने उनके बारे में सुना होगा, प्रतीक नारंग भैया. तो उनके courses है Udemy पे हैं और I think उनके ही कुछ institutes हैं. So you can learn about that. You can Google about that and वहाँ से you can follow his courses. He explains the stuff very easily. So you can definitely check that out. Okay. Is DSA okay? Can DSA alone get us a job? I don't. I cannot guarantee that. But without DSA, getting a job is very difficult. This is what I can say. How many hours in a day should we practice DSA? So it depends on how much you can give, right? For example, at least I would suggest 2 to 3 hours, because whenever you are practicing questions, so in 2 hours you can solve around 3-4 questions when you are beginning. So 3 to 4 hours should suffice. To crack full stack development, coding, testing. Okay, cool. So I think now I'll just take up the questions from the chat box. And resources, I'm just adding that, see, whenever you're trying to solve questions from a concept, let's say you learned array, so very important resource which you can use is Geeks for Geeks. Whereas when you have done all the topics and when you want to practice for interviews, so you have Lead Code and Interview Bit. And there are also DSA sheets. Yes, I forgot to mention about this. So a lot of DSA sheets are available in the market. For example, you can say DSA sheet by Love Barbar Bhaiya. There is a DSA sheet also called by Striver, right? So DSA sheet be yahi hai, same cheese. What you can do is on YouTube search DSA sheet and then you will get top 3 results, top 4 results, and anyone, choose anyone. ठीक है, जिसका भी आपको इफ यू थिंक कि लव बब्बर भैया की है या फिर स्ट्राइवर की है, जिसका भी चूज करना है, चूज वन डीएसए शीट एंड ट्राई टू फॉलो दैट, right? Don't switch between the sheets. So what, again I'm repeating this, कि if you choose a resource, अगर आपने एक कोर्स ले लिया, even if it is a paid or a free resource, once you actually start doing it, so don't switch between the content. अगर आपने लेट्स से डीएसए शीट बाय लव बब्बर चूज करा, तो उन भैया की शीट को पूरा का पूरा कर लो, राइट? डोंट स्विच कि यार मैंने एरेज यहां से कर लिया और मैं अब आगे जाके स्ट्रिंग्स कहीं और से करूंगा. आई वुडंट रेकमेंड दैट. Again, so a question is how much DSA is required for app development, right? App development हो गया या फिर web development. So at least you should know till fundamentals of DSA, but I would suggest कि intermediate level तक तो at least आना ही चाहिए. But fundamentals of DSA should be good enough at least. That is a prerequisite. SQL and HTML. So see, SQL and HTML are not part of DSA. Can you share something about your journey? Okay, cool. So see, again, 3 years back, if I look back, so I was again in your place, right? I used to wonder कि यार कैसे DSA पढ़ना है, because seniors from our college used to tell कि ठीक है DSA पढ़ लो, but how to start, because there are a lot of things to, like if you google ki how to prepare for DSA, बहुत सारी एक ऐसे list आ जाएगी about topics, so you never know कि यार how to start, right? So to start with, I actually chose कि okay, I learn a language, so I started with C++ because I already knew C. So I started with C++ and it was very easy transition for me. Once I was done with C++, again, um, in my second year, I started actually, I opted for a paid course because I wanted some structured content. So I think for me, a paid course or some structured content, इससे मेरी retention बढ़ जाती है. So I am able to learn at a faster pace. So इसलिए I opted for a paid course. By again, I learned from Pratik Narang Bhaiya's course. ठीक है, you can search about that. And then after going through that course, what I understood was, okay, these are the topics, and these are, again, I made notes as well. So for example, after let's say 2 weeks, I used to revise very regularly because I used to forget कि यार मैंने क्या पढ़ा था 2 हफ्ते पहले. So I used to revise everything, and then once I was done with that content, I started practicing questions, right? And once you start practicing questions regularly, so I think after a point in time you will definitely say, okay, you feel confident in DSA, then you can start with your other projects and everything. So what is difference between C sharp, C++, and C? Again, these are all of them are programming languages. So you can learn any of that. If you're choosing, if you're opting for C++, then that is fine. But don't use C for DSA, right? Because any programming language that you choose for DSA should have something called standard template library. Basically, you should be able to. There should be a library which you can use to you should be able to import basic data structures from that. So C doesn't have that, so that is not recommended. Yeah, sure. So what I'll do is I'll just share the link for this Google slides in the chat box. Cool. I've shared the link in the chat box so that you can access it. Okay. So what are the questions now? Python is helpful for getting a job. Yes, you can choose any language. So any language which are mostly used, like for example, Python, C++, Java will work if you're trying to learn DSA. Yes, right. Okay. One more important point which I missed was, okay, so this is a question that can I see the solution for any algorithm after I have tried for 2-3 times? Yes, correct. So see, yes, definitely you should see the solution. Reason being, let's say you were solving a concept or you were solving a question जिसका concept आपको नहीं पता था, right? For example, बहुत सारे questions होंगे यार, बहुत सारे type of questions होते हैं. So whenever you see a new concept and after trying 2-3 times or 4 times at max, don't spend a lot of time there, right? Don't spend a, a whole day solving that question. So what you can do is go through the tutorial and usko again, important thing to do here is that once you have solved that question after watching the tutorial, right, make notes of that, because whenever next time you see that question you should be able to solve it. So notes bana lo ताकि revision हो जाए. So yes, definitely the answer is yes. If you are not able to solve a problem, uska tutorial dekh lo, right? You should go through the tutorial. You can search on YouTube that if that is a famous question, you will definitely get the solution for it. Solution देखो, notes बनाओ, revise it, and then next time you see that same concept, you should be able to solve it. This is the aim. Okay, dynamic programming graph trees are they important for getting into product based companies? Yes, definitely. So these are very important topics, um, which are very important, I would say. Okay, what are the questions? Okay, which language is best for DSA? See, like no one can tell you that this is the best language, but I can suggest you that if you're starting, if you're a complete beginner and you don't know anything, then C++ or Java, you can choose any of that. That is what I would recommend. I started with C++. फ्रंट एंड की हायरिंग में भी डीएसए पूछते हैं क्या? See, if the role is very only front end specific, then I don't think they'll ask you DSA. But uh, to get to that interview, right? To basically sit for an interview for front end, they might give you a very basic coding challenge. जहाँ पे the questions can be from fundamentals of DSA. This is possible, but again, this depends from company to company. So PPT का link I'm again sharing in the chat box. Yes, definitely. Arif, so the question now is from can through AxiaJob can we get into FANG? Definitely. So what AxiaJob does is basically they train you or they teach you DSA and full stack development from scratch. But if you want to target product based companies or FANG companies, so you can focus more on the advanced part. Like for example, once you have learned the basic from let's say AxiaJob or anywhere, so वहां से once you're done with the basics, then you should focus on the advanced DSA. So if you're targeting product based companies. Java, okay. Okay, just a second. Next question is, I'm a beginner and I'm learning C plus CSS HTML. So see, if you're a beginner and if you're learning web development, that is fine. But if you want to learn DSA, then you should start with Java or C++. So link I'm again sharing in the chat box, so you can go through the link. I think I have already answered this question, Shelky, that front end may it depends on company to company, but basic fundamentals of DSA they might ask. Okay, so PPT you can't find. I'm sharing the link in the chat box. What we can do is after this, maybe we can share the PPT link in the description as well. So after this stream ends, we can add that into description. Okay, cool. Any other questions, anyone related to DSA? So I think there is a question, does degree matter? Should I do MC after BSc? See, I'm not really sure about this, but I can answer questions about DSA. For answering this, you can definitely consult someone related to that MCA or BSc. Can I learn Python as my first language and DSA? Yes, definitely. If you want to start with Python, you can start with it. Definitely, you can learn DSA in that. There is no harm in doing that. But if you haven't started, then try and learn Java and C++ or Java or C++. HTML is not in DSA. Cool. How to how to learn logic building? So see, logic building will come once you start practicing. So logic building automatically आ जाएगा. So Mayur, you are asking this question. Logic building is simple कि whenever you learn a concept, you should practice questions and उसके बाद logic अपने आप build होना शुरू हो जाएगा. So that is how you can learn. Um, Next question is okay. Yes, definitely we can share the PPT. I will share in the description. So is it possible to try to learn Java and Python at the same time? It is possible, but not recommended because there are concepts in Java or Python. दोनों में if you're trying to learn simultaneously, you might get confused. So it is not preferable. Sir, what should we do if we don't get the problem statement? Problem statement समझ नहीं आई तो यार दोबारा पढ़ो भाई. प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट समझने के लिए वन अगर first time you read it, if you're not able to do if you're not able to understand, then go through it again once more, and then once you're done, then try to go through sample input and sample output. Basically वो sample is given for your understanding कि you should be able to dry run your code और dry run की करना क्या है looking at the sample input and output. So which is better, C++, Java or Python? See, all of them are programming languages, and I can't say which is better, but according to the use case, for DSA, I would recommend C++ or Java. So, okay, placement scenario on your job. You can go to their website, right? We have, and then you can find all the details. Cool. Okay. Okay, I'm a software tester. Can I move to development? Yes, definitely. See, there are a lot of people which have shifted from tester to development area. You can definitely do that. So for that, you need to learn DSA and maybe some development, and definitely you can switch. Okay, one question is C++ or Java, which is better for competitive programming? So see, for competitive programming, both will work because both are very fast. But if you are, again, if you haven't done anything and you're a complete beginner, then and your aim is to at the end do competitive programming, then you can definitely start with C++. But competitive programming is something which you should do out of interest, right? It is not a must to do thing. Competitive programming अपने आप अगर आपको interest बन रहा है, then only you should do that. Cool, cool, cool. I think I have answered most of the questions. Is CP must for FANG? I would say no. It is not a must to do thing. So CP is not must for FANG. But if you are doing CP, do it out of interest. Don't do it just to get into FANG. अगर मजा आ रहा है, CP is like a sport. मजा आ रहा है तो करो. If you're not able to, if you don't enjoy doing it, then there is no point of doing that. You can simply practice question from lead code. How much OOPS is required for interviews? OOPS may at least basics of OOPS, like for example the 4 pillars and concept and implementation part. But again, it depends from company to company how much do they require. So you can read interview experiences. किसी के भी, for example, let's say if you want to sit for Amazon or if you have an interview in Amazon, so you can go through their interview experiences and you will be able to find कि कितना what are the concepts they asked, right? I'm not able to solve problems like pattern printing. See, pattern printing can be tricky, but again, there's a set of questions which you can practice, and then I think you should be able to, you will be able to build the logic for that. If you have learned Python, then okay, if you've already learned Python and you're confident in that, then you can definitely go with Python as your choice for DSA. But again, if you are a complete beginner, then you should focus more on Java or C++. Cool, then I think it's time as well. So I hope I answered all your questions. And what we'll do is we'll attach the link to this Google Slides in the description so that you can refer to it. And if you have any questions, you can ask, like for example, you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. So you can search for Parv Budhiraja and you can connect with me and I'll definitely try to answer your questions. Cool, and thank you so much everyone. Have a very good night. And I hope this video helped you to get a better understanding of how do you practice DSA and how do you go about the whole process. Thank you. See you all. Bye bye.